Hey coaches, Derek here from Derek Pancho Consulting, back with another edition of The Breakdown. In this video, I want to talk a little bit about a question that's been on my mind lately. I do a lot of one-on-one work with coaches, and the early part of that work comes down to coming up with a personal coaching development plan for them. And through these conversations, we're sort of always trying to identify, okay, well, where do we need to go? What does success look like? And one of the questions that's popped into my mind is, how do we know if we're getting better as a coach? It was sort of crystallized. I saw this tweet recently from Cody Royal, who's a AFL coach based out of Canada. And I thought it was really interesting because from the outside, success looks pretty straightforward in a world like sports. Your success is based on the outcomes that you're getting. But in reality, there's a lot more to success than that. And he sort of said, okay, if we're talking about our peers and what success looks like, there's all these other things which are quite intangible and difficult to figure out. And, when I work with the coaches one-on-one, we sort of take that to another level and come up with some ideas about, on a personal level, what does success look like for you? And coaching's a tough gig, and it's made even tougher by the fact that there's not a lot of good metrics that we can use to sort of assess success. In a lot of ways, it's like leadership and management. Your effectiveness as a coach depends so much on the performance of others, which can be a good thing or a bad thing. But when we're sort of reliant on the performance of others, it's difficult to sort of really determine, well, how are we getting better through that? So in this week's video, I just sort of wanted to throw out some questions that I've sort of thought about when I'm having these discussions with coaches that are relevant to their development, and hopefully relevant to you as coaches when you're coming up with your plans for development. And the first one's pretty straightforward, like, where do we need to go? And this question seems pretty straightforward, but at the same time, it can also have a few layers to it because, we need to start to interrogate, okay, well, this is where you say you want to go, but at the end of the day, how do we know that that is going to have an impact on the individuals that you're coaching? So it's a big question that we sort of need to tease apart. And it's related to the second question that I sort of pose when I talk with coaches about this is, how do we measure success? They say success leaves clues. And there's some interesting work out there in the coaching space around what successful coaches do. The work around serial winning coaches from Sergio Loro Bacall and Cliff Mallet is certainly interesting. But in my mind, that sort of, it focuses on a very narrow group of coaches, the ones working at the lead end. And it doesn't sort of take into account what success might look like for a coach who's working more in a developmental program or a coach who's working in the community. So it's a tricky question to look at, and one of the things that's related to it is what metrics are we looking at to determine if we're successful or not. Finally, I guess the last question that I sort of pose to a lot of coaches that I work with, and I think one of the aspects of the work that I do that has sort of, I guess, resonated the most with coaches stems around feedback. So what sort of feedback are you getting to let you know whether your current performance is closing the gap between your goals? For athletes, it's pretty straightforward sometimes. As a coach, you're the one there providing them feedback. But as a coach, who's going to provide you feedback along the way? And like I said, this is probably one of the areas of the work that I've done that coaches find most rewarding is sort of we have these regular catch-ups and check-ins to sort of say, okay, well, are we on the right track? Are we still got the right metrics in place? Are we taking the steps that we need to do in order to be successful? At the end of the day, it's not an easy thing to do or measure, but it can be a lot of fun. So, as a coach, I definitely recommend thinking about coming up with a personal development plan that steers you in the direction that you want to go. If you're interested in looking for help, then reach out, give me a call, or get in touch via socials or my email, and we can have those conversations. I've worked with a few really interesting coaches in this space, and we've come up with some really fun plans and enjoyed working closely together with them to help them grow and develop. Thank you.